saw a familiar face walking on the avenue, both surprised by the way we looked. The years have changed us too.
Hello again. Welcome to another episode of Gung Ho. It's March 12, 2025. Again, I'm going to tell you that I'm a retired criminal defense attorney. I was also in the Marine Corps for 4 years. I went from private to captain. I was in serious combat in Vietnam. They say a cat has 9 lives. This cat has like 18 lives, and I'm still going. All right. Things are coming at us pretty fast. The title of this show is Trump is a Traitor. I'm calling him a traitor. I think right now there's enough evidence against him to have him arrested and the cronies around him for treason. All right, let's back up. I actually let you people down. I'll tell you why. I thought that Trump didn't get involved with the FBI until Traitor came on board in Trump Tower at Bayrock. I'm wrong. There's a book out there called Compromat, written by a guy by the name of Chris Unger. It was written in 2021. I tried to get a copy of it. So far, I can't. What he lays out is that in 1987, the Soviets decided that Trump is a good mark. He's wealthy, he's greedy, he's a narcissist, and they decided to recruit him. In 1987, they did that. And what they did is they invited him, the Soviets invited him to Moscow to talk about building a Trump Tower in Moscow in 1987. All the while, this was a Soviet operation to make him an asset. The book and the author proved that beyond a reasonable doubt that he is an asset. That was written in 2021. I say now there's evidence that he's a traitor. Okay. Well, Trump went over there, and when he came back, he took out, I don't know, maybe $100,000 in ads in all the big papers, including the New York Times, I think the Daily News, full-page ads saying that we should get out of NATO. In 1987, he did that. So he was spouting the Soviet propaganda. We should leave NATO back in 1987. Trump went through a series of bankruptcies. He came out of every one. Now it's believed by someone, including me, the only way he did that is with Soviet and Russian money. But for that money, there would be no Trump. There'll be no Trump president. He would have been a loser. He is a loser. So I met, and my friend Jim Henry met with Craig Unger Tuesday. And to me, it was an eye-opener. Jim knew a lot of this stuff already. Trump became very friendly with certain people in the FBI. Some of these people actually turned out to be traitors themselves, like this guy, Charles McGoogle, who was recently indicted and is doing time right now, high up in the FBI. The corruption is horrible in the FBI. So we've been trying to figure out, Jim and I and some other people, why didn't Mueller go after Trump? Why, and his pit bull, Andrew Weissman? I'm going to say this straight out. The evidence is there. Maybe it's right now circumstantial. We have it. Why they didn't do it? We don't have a witness. The main witness against Donald Trump laundering close to $1 billion of Soviet and Russian money is Felix Sater. But when they did this together, Bayrock, located in Trump Tower, and the Trump Organization, when they did that, Felix Sater was working as an FBI informer for Robert Mueller and Andrew Weissman. That's what the cover-up is. So think about it. We don't have any evidence, out of all the prosecutors out there, who gets appointed to go after Donald Trump in 2017? Robert Mueller by Rod Rosenstein. Why? I told people close to me, he's there not to get Trump. He's not going to do anything to Trump. He has a conflict. He had an FBI informer in the Trump Tower for fucking maybe 10 years. How can he go after Trump? And sure enough, I was right. He didn't put a glove on Trump. Not only that, his pit bull, everybody bragging about this great, former U.S. Attorney, Andrew Weissman. He's the guy that flipped Felix Sater and made him an FBI informer on December 10th, 1998. I have the agreement because Felix Sater was the main informer on one of my very big mob cases. In 2000, Andrew Weissman flipped Felix Sater. Okay. And we have the proof. We have the documents. We have it. After he took a plea, he went over to Trump Tower and he joined Bayrock. He had already pled guilty to racketeering conspiracy. He hadn't been sentenced yet. He would not be sentenced for another 11 years. I have the proof. I have the sentencing minutes. He was sentenced illegally. He was facing hundreds of thousands of dollars in fines and maybe $60 million in restitution. That was the law. The judge violated the law. All they did was sentence him to $25,000 fine. And at his sentencing, he was represented by Leslie Caldwell, who had been very high up in the Department of Justice. She made one appearance for Felix Sater on October 23rd, 2011, and she was gone. And she was on Ari Melba last night, talking to Ari Melba about the cuts in the Department of Justice public interrogate. Sorry. The proof is out there. It involves a lot of U.S. attorneys. It involves the FBI agents. It involves crooked judges because they let this all happen. Remember about me, criminal defense attorney. I never represented a rat like Felix Sater. I had no idea what they did for rats. I mean, Whitey Bulge is a perfect example of what a rat could do. He was being protected by one FBI agent, and he went out there and did whatever he wanted, murder, extortion, whatever he wanted. One agent was protecting him. Felix Sater was being protected by the FBI Bureau, while Mueller was the chief. He was the chief, and Andrew Weissman was working for him, and they had Felix Sater in Trump Tower. And you think Trump didn't know that? No one's ever going to say, Trump's got a pass. He goes, he knows. No one will come forward and say, but I laundered money with him. Felix Sater could do that. I laundered money with him, and he knew the money was stolen from Russia and Kazakhstan and all this. He knew all of that. Felix Sater will never do that because he's been cooperating with Mueller and Andrew Weissman. Why? What about Mueller? How about him as a whistleblower? You think he's going to come forward and tell the truth? By the way, yes, it's true. We had an FBI informer in Trump Tower for maybe 10 years. And while I was the FBI director at the time, and Andrew Weissman was working for me, we did this. We did this. And we covered it up. All of this is provable. Look, I don't have a witness. Because there's no one out there right now that has the courage to come forward and tell the truth to us. I'm talking about Americans. Tell us the truth. Because the collateral damage to us is Donald Trump. He's got a pass by the FBI. It's so obvious. I've been up against the feds for over 40 years. I never saw them screw up a case so bad because they don't want him. He's got them. He turns around and says, oh, by the way, people thought they were like wiretaps in the Trump Tower. No, you had an informer in my building doing business with me, representing himself to be a legitimate guy. You did that to me, Mueller and Andrew Weissman. You did it. So what happens? I mean, could anyone believe that Trump, this unfit, narcissist, greedy, is now, well, even ran for the President of the United States? There was a warning out there. Actually, one of the lawyers that was going after Felix Sater way back, starting actually 2010, wrote an article. And he pointed out that, you know, this guy, Donald Trump, was running for office. Does anybody realize that he was in bed with Russians and laundered about $1 billion? That article was published and it was written by a guy by the name of Rich Lerner in 2015. It got no traction. And, you know, and Rich at that point was fighting with his friend, Fred Oberlander, against the government. They had been gagged, but Rich still wrote the article and it still was published. It got no traction at all. Great article. No traction at all. All right. There's nobody out there right now that is telling you what I'm telling you. Again, I was in federal courts for over 40 years. I never represented a rat. I didn't realize they made deals with them and they let the rats go out and continue to do whatever they were doing. And you're talking about murders and drug deals, that they let them do it. And the FBI has a term for that. This is how ignorant I was. I looked it up, I found it, it's in their guidelines. Otherwise illegal activity. So they flip somebody. Now I know now, because I was up against one of their informers, his name was Peter Savino. I think he was an associate of the Genovese crime family. He helped them make the Windows case not too long ago. The feds thought it was going to be the biggest mob case ever. Their main witness was Peter Savino. One of the defendants was Peter Gotti. The defendants knew that I knew someone that was very close to Peter Savino. That I knew someone that was very close to Peter Savino. They came to me. Actually, oh God. They came to me. Peter and his lawyer, and I'm losing it right now. And the defense hired me to get the dirt on Peter Savino. And here's what I found out, just some of it. Peter Savino was arrested for 2 murders. He was arrested based on the evidence that my friend, well, he became my friend, gave the state prosecutors in Brooklyn. He was arrested for 2 murders. He was able to make 1 phone call while he was locked up. About an hour later, some FBI agents showed up. And they told the local cops, the local homicide detectives, you can't have him, he's ours. But we have him, we're about to indict him for 2 murders. You can't do that, he's ours. That really happened. That really happened. And when I was first told that, I said, that's crazy. It happened, it happened. So Pete Savino was out there. He was already cooperating. He was murdering people. He was drug dealing. He was a pedophile. And he was a federal witness. I got the dirt on him. And I brought it back. I got retained to get the dirt on him. My God. And that big case, the Windows case, it was a big loss for the feds because Peter Savino was such a fucking evil bastard. Almost everyone was acquitted. So the FBI and Department of Justice does crazy things. They recruited Greg Scarpo, Lucchese crime family, hitman. They recruited him. He worked for them for 30 years doing hits. Nobody bothered with him all that time. He finally got caught up. But what I'm telling you now, that the scandal is this. There's a cover-up. And the person that benefits from it is Donald Trump and his Russian co-conspirators, you want to call them. I call them. There's a cover-up. The FBI, the Department of Justice, federal judges, and other people high up, for example, Bush 43, had to know this. He appointed Mueller. I'm sure he spoke to Mueller on occasion. And how about Obama? After Mueller was on the job for 10 years and his term ended, Obama kept him on. Meanwhile, Sater's over in Trump Tower, laundering money with fucking Donald Trump. So the scandal is this. It's worse than we thought. You know, we thought maybe in every institution there are bad apples. No, there are bushes of apples. And the cover-up is ongoing. You know why it's ongoing? And the feds are dumb. Because at this moment, they're still persecuting the lawyers that tried to bring it out that Felix Sater was laundering money with Donald Trump. They're still persecuting them. They started on them in 2010. I came forward. I found out. How did I find out about it? Because Felix Sater was on MSNBC, and everybody was touting him to be such a great guy, an asset, this and that. He was a dirtbag. And I came forward. I found out what was going on. They actually accused these lawyers of trying to kill. This is in 2011. I didn't know this. They actually, on the record in court, they accused these two lawyers, Fred Oberlander and Rich Lerner, of conspiring with my client, Danny Persico Jr., to kill Felix Sater. How's that? They did that in court. I found out about it in 2018 because Felix Sater was making a publicity tour, and I started to do due diligence, and I said, wait a minute, same guy. 2000, an informer. 2018, he's around. This is incredible. And I came forward. I put it in an affidavit. I filed it with Judge Glasser, who was the judge on Felix Sater's case. He read my affidavit, and I put the lie to everything. I put the lie to all their lies. And guess what? I'm told to come to court by Fred Oberlander and Rich Lerner, and I go to court. I have a lawyer, Maurice Surkaz. Walk into court. The feds are trying to get them. They're trying to bust them. They served them with these grand jury subpoenas. It was total bullshit. The subpoenas were about any information they had, any contact they had with a list of journalists about Felix Sater. That was the grand jury subpoena. And it turned out when they did this, the first time they did it with the grand jury subpoenas, there was no grand jury. I go to court. It's about the grand jury subpoenas. The government's trying to get Fred Oberlander and Rich Lerner to comply. But they have accused them of trying to kill Felix Sater with my client, Danny Persico Jr. They said they did this in 2011. I'm there to put a lie to that. They have my affidavit. The judge has my affidavit. It's bullshit. My client in 2011 trying to kill Felix Sater, and they didn't reach out to me and say, Mr. Giannini, you know, we want you to surrender Danny Persico because he's conspiring to kill Felix Sater. Bullshit. Nobody ever reached out to me. It never happened. But it's on the record. It's on the record. It's on the record. It's in the record. So I'm there. I'm in court. I'm there to testify. I have a great lawyer, Maurice Surkaz. And the judge comes out, Judge Hall, and I never seen anything like it. Now, this is all about Felix Sater. This is about Fred Oberlander was suing, had started to sue Bayrock and Felix Sater, and that would lead to Trump in 2010. And now we're talking about 2018. The government has been hammering them now for 8 years, tying them up, gagging them. So I'm there to testify. My attorney, Maurice Surkaz, goes over and introduces himself to the U.S. attorneys. Funny thing is, the Eastern District had recused themselves. They had a conflict. So they brought in some U.S. attorneys from the Northern District. My attorney goes over, he speaks to them, he lets them know I'm here, I'm ready to testify. They already have my affidavit. And my affidavit is to show that the government is acting in bad faith. They're lying to the court about Oberlander and Lerner. They never conspired to kill Felix Sater. It's a lie. And they're trying to say that that information, they gave me information about Felix Sater in 2011, and they got it mixed up. They really got it mixed up. It never happened. I never met Oberlander or Lerner or knew of him in 2011. It had nothing to do with Felix Sater. So I'm there. And the judge right out, no, he's not going to testify. I'm not going to let him testify. What the? This is America. This is a court. The judge is angry. I've never seen anything like this in my life. Really angry at Oberlander and Lerner. I never saw such hostility. And my friend Maurice Urquhart, I thought he's like the best trial lawyer in America. And I know, because we've done murder trials together, I know what he could do. And he does a lot of federal work. Judge would not let me get on the stand. They put the case over. We go outside in the hallway, and Maurice, now this guy is like brilliant. He's my attorney. I can't get anyone better, and he's my friend. And he says to me, this brilliant lawyer who does a lot of federal cases, says to me, in fact, he represented one of my cousins on a federal case. I referred my cousin to Maurice Urquhart. I also, and he brought in Gerard Chargel. I called Maurice Chargel to represent one of my cousins when he was indicted. How's that? That's how good a lawyer is. All right, we go outside in the hallway, and Maurice says to me, Joe, I don't know what's going on here. Now, I had given him some discovery. He knew certain things already. Certain documents had been filed, and that's why he showed up. He read the documents, and he showed up. He said, I don't know what's going on here, but the government is going through extraordinary lengths to protect Felix Sater. And he told me, don't get involved, walk away. This is not your fight. And Oberlander and Richard Lerner were standing nearby, and we were going to go to have lunch across the way at the Park Plaza, I think it was. And I told Maurice, I can't do that. I can't walk away from this. I can't walk away from this fight. I won't do that. And he walked away. He actually called my wife, Nikki, and he said, I told Joe, don't do this. Do not get involved in this. Well, I got involved. I got seriously involved. I've done my due diligence. And I know now more than I ever could possibly know, just by working with Fred Oberlander and Rich Lerner and Jim Henry, how bad it is. There is a scandal going on right now. It's ongoing. And the statute of limitations hasn't run. You know why? About this conspiracy to protect Felix Sater and Trump and Mueller and Weissman and other FBI agents and other U.S. attorneys and judges, including Judge Glasser, who I know. How's that? Who I know. Judge Glasser was the dean of my law school. I appeared many times in front of Judge Glasser. I had such great respect for him. Then I found out that he was sentencing informers illegally. He wasn't following the law. This is someone I admired. I have good reminiscences with Judge Glasser in front of him, doing cases in front of him. He's one of the judges that would go down, and there are many that would go down, because they litigated Fred Oberlander and Rich Lerner up to the Supreme Court. It was corruption, from the bottom up, from the top down. All I can tell you is this, though. I didn't keep quiet. I went after Sater's lawyers Robert Wolf and Michael Bates. I went after them. I filed a grievance against them in the first district. I filed a really lengthy grievance, and I laid it out. The whole thing about Mueller and Andrew Weissman and these guys, I filed a grievance against them. And then I get a letter from the grievance committee saying they're not going forward because there's not enough evidence. You didn't like taking this issue in front of the Judge Kogan, who was handling part of Felix Sater's case back then. This is now, oh my God, it must have been 2020, I think, 2020. And that was wrong. I did take it up in front of Judge Kogan. And then they said, well, you could like ask for reconsideration. I said, no, I don't want any reconsideration from you people. You didn't even read my complaints. You're asking me questions. One of their investigators called me up. I called them, he called me back. I said, what is going on here? You're about to dismiss my complaints against these lawyers? You want me to basically appeal to you? You didn't even read my complaints. I could tell by the way he was asking me questions. I said, no, I'm not going to let you reconsider my complaints against them. I want them back. I took my grievances back. And I published them. I published them to Judge Glasser. I published them to Sater's lawyers. I published them to the prosecutors. I did it. I did it. And they did nothing to me. Nobody said, oh, Mr. Giannini's a crank. Mr. Giannini is a liar. Mr. Giannini is mistaken. No, not one fucking word in response. From Judge Glasser on down, I mean everyone. Robert Mueller, everything I do. First person I address is Judge Glasser. He's still on the bench. Judge Kogan, Robert Mueller, Andrew Weissman, Harry Melba. People are scared. They're scared. They're so scared. Nobody wants to say anything. Craig Unger says something. They ignored him. He's telling the truth. I'm telling the truth.
I saw a familiar face walking on the avenue, both surprised by the